Greetings, this is Jared Love, and in this video I'm going to be going over a little tip for something you can do with shape nodes when you've got them parented in an FK chain. So like I've got this just 4 controls, they're just parented to each other, just obviously typical FK chain kind of a thing. But before really going into what the tip is, I'm going to explain a fundamental concept in Maya. So whenever you create a curve, which I created this just from, create NURBS primitive circle, it creates 2 nodes. It actually, and to see it, I'll show the shapes here. So it creates a transform node, which is storing all of the translate, rotate, scale information so that you can actually manipulate it in 3D space. And then it creates a shape node. And now the shape node is really just the information for how to draw this shape out and how to tell Maya how to draw it and redraw it when it moves. So this is the same for NURBS curve, NURBS surface, polygons, camera, locator. I mean, there's all kinds of shape nodes, but they all behave pretty much the same way in relation to how they behave with a transform. So every shape node you create will have a transform above it, and that's just how Maya does it. So if I select this guy, so back to our FK chain here, and I arrow up, it goes to the next control above it. But if I arrow down from this top one, it goes into the shape node instead of to the next control. So I have to go down and then arrow sideways, down, arrow sideways, down, arrow sideways to get to the next child control in my hierarchy, which is a little tedious and annoying. So, initially the shape node is the first child in that list. So when you arrow down, it's going to go to that shape node first. That's just the way pickwalking works in Maya. But the cool thing with them being children, you can actually reorder them so that you could set it up to where this B control would be the first child. Now, unfortunately, Maya is trying to be a little helpful in this situation. It's with shape nodes, it just doesn't really help all that well. Except for certain things like when you select this, it actually selects the transform, which is pretty much what you'd want most of the time anyway. But if I want to reorder this, normally if you have a parent with a bunch of children, you can grab one of them and then middle mouse and drag it in between to the new child location, and it'll sandwich it in there. But you see, when I let go of it, it actually parented it to the A control's parent. So this is where Maya trying to be helpful in sort of hiding shape nodes from you. There's some logic that it does that doesn't end up actually helping for this particular situation. So really the only way to reorder this is with a command. So that command is this guy. Now I'm using Python, but you can use Mel, of course. Maya commands.reorder is the command we're going to be looking at. And so I put it in this for loop so that I can actually select all of these guys and do it at once. And what it is going to do is it says, okay, so for each control in my selection, which is what this command gives you, mc.ls selection equals true. And then, so it goes through each of those and it says, okay, so for each shape in mc.listRelatives of the control, shape equals true. And so what that does is, rather than listing all of the children to get the shape and the transform, it's only going to give the shape. So it's ignoring any transforms it finds. So A is only going to return this A control shape. Now, the reason I put this in a for loop is because you can have multiple shape nodes underneath any given transform. So I just wanted to make sure this would catch all of those situations. So after it does that, it says, okay, for each shape in that selection, I'm going to reorder the shape to the back. So what that means is it says, okay, take the shape node and make it the last child in the child list. So it will, by shifting that, it will then make B control be the first child. So if I just run this, I had the shape control selected, so that's why it didn't work. Good times. So yeah, you want to make sure you have your transforms of your actual controls selected and then run it. And it's going to, let me just expand these all out. So once that's done, you'll see there's this kind of like chevron shape that kind of happens in the hierarchy. And if we look at it, now the C control, the first child is the D control, and the second child is the C control shape. So what this is going to allow me to do, now if I grab that bottom guy and arrow up, that's the same as before. But if I arrow down now, I go right into the next control, which is awesome. So I don't have to do this sideways, down arrow sideways to do all that kind of stuff. And so that just makes traversing that hierarchy a little bit easier on your animators. Cool little trick. So now to go over multiple shapes. So you can do this kind of hierarchy thing with the shape nodes. Mostly it's probably going to be transforms, but it could also be joints. So you could parent shapes to joints and use the shape node to select that joint to animate it. So actually, why don't I just do that? I'll do a joint. So if I create a joint here, now again, like I was saying, Maya keeps shape nodes kind of hidden, like kind of quasi hidden from you. They're not really hidden because obviously you can see it, but the way it treats them, it's not like a regular parenting situation or something. So if I take the curve, transform and parent it to this, obviously that's not what I want, because if I select this, it's not actually selecting the joint, and that's because, I mean, duh, you just parented that transform instead. So unfortunately though, even if you take this guy, arrow down, so I've got the shape node selected, and I shift select the joint and then hit parent, it still does the same thing. So it just parents the transform to the joint instead of the curve shape. So again, dealing with shapes, we have to use a command, and I'm going to type it out and cut that out of the video so you don't have to sit there and watch me type through the command, but I will explain it to you after that. Okay, so here's the command, mc.parent, so it's the parent command. And what you do is you say, okay, I want to take the curve shape node and I want to parent it to joint 1 in this case. And s equals true for shape equals true, and r equals true for relative equals true. So what it's going to do is it's basically going to take this curve and it's going to reparent it to this guy in that local space of the joint, so the curve won't stay up here. So obviously when I do it, so there we go. So now if I select the curve, it selects the joint instead of the transform that's up over here. So at this point we don't actually need this anymore, so we can delete that transform. But just to show you the whole multiple thing, we could do it with a polygon. I mean, it doesn't really matter what you do it with, as long as it's a shape node. So if I grab this and let's replace it here. Okay, so don't need that transform anymore. And now we see if I select the cube or if I select the curve, they're both selecting that joint because they are both children of the joint. So that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you find it useful and have a blessed day.